What do you plan on doing to ensure that minority employment, first off, is it an important issue? And
Right.
B, what do you do about that to ensure that there's a good reflection of minorities in city government?
Right. Well, it is important because we should be reflective of the community,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the reasons I'm for the residency requirement.
Okay.
And so, because if you go outside the city boundaries, that dilutes the minority population.
Okay.
Because within the city proper, it's I think it's close to 20%
Mhm.
minorities. What's interesting, I don't know if you know this, I used to be in community reinvestment for the bank.
And which
And
bank
that's-
was that again? I'm sorry.
That was First of America is when I was the CRA coordinator, and then it
Okay.
migrated to National City, which
Okay.
is now PNC.
And you were banking for what, a dozen or so years?
14
right?
years.
14 years.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I
I'm sorry.
started in new accounts and did credit cards, oversaw the credit card department, then
Okay.
community reinvestment. But then I went over to Security Bank and their business deposit
Okay.
products. But with regards to community reinvestment, why that's important is I think it was like late 1970s.
Mhm.
Banks were accused of redlining around
Right.
poor areas of the
Mhm.
community. So they created a community reinvestment coordinator position
Mhm.
within the bank, and they sent me in to build that level of trust.
And that was you.
Right.
Okay.
And so I did it here in Springfield to low and moderate income areas. But one of the aspects was to look at loan applications, making sure that you're not discriminating against minority loan applicants, and
Mhm.
then also creating programs to help low and moderate income people and areas.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. And then also went over to Decatur and had to do it there.
Okay.
And what was interesting, in Decatur, it took me about a year to get acceptance because they saw me as an outsider from Springfield. But, it's just like, almost like you're going, what's going to happen here
Mhm.
with regards to build a level of trust with city government and the minority community. Going back to my days in banking, Springfield Urban League did a Achieving the Dream luncheon.
Mhm.
And basically it was a report on city government and their minority practices, hiring
Okay.
practices.
Mhm.
And my dad was mayor at the time, and
Okay.
the sponsoring bank was my bank.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of, I'm on the other side.
Yeah.
But that's what they critiqued the minority workforce at that time. And really the numbers were probably as good as what they are today. And so you fast forward to today, and that's what's interesting about numbers. I know the mayor had said that he's improved things, but in the eyes of some of the other minority candidates, they felt there wasn't anything being done or not enough being done.
Mhm.
So that's what you have to take a look at. If someone perceives it a certain way,
Sure.
you need to make sure that it's not reality. You have to
Okay.
prove it wrong or change their perception.
Yeah.
So as mayor, that's what I would do,
Okay.
is work with the community like I've done all my life, in the banking days.
Mhm.
Even as treasurer and as mayor, I'd continue those practices, best practices. And some of the things specifically I would put in place is have a review process for applicants. So if you're going to offer a job to a non-minority and there's a similar applicant that's a minority,
Mhm.
you should have that review process and make sure that something wasn't missed, making sure there's no discrimination
Mhm.
in place, and really you're just having another set of eyes or a group of eyes look at it to make sure everything's balanced.
Would that review process be within the Human Resources Department or some other place in city? government?
It'd be that's what we'd take a look at.
Okay.
It depends on the numbers. You hopefully that you would probably have an outside. You'd have both. You'd have someone from HR and then someone from outside, someone from the department
Yeah.
that's doing the hiring as well.
Uh-huh.
So the one thing is the concept would be in place, but you don't want to be so rigid that you can't make adjustments.
Okay.
Because the bottom line is we're trying to improve the diversity within city government.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing in the police and fire. They have banding. Banding was supposed to resolve everything. And
It certainly hasn't.
No. And so to me, I'm thinking, well, you should just look at other municipalities or other fire departments and police departments from throughout the nation.
Uh-huh.
And there's some better practices than what we're using. So let's find out what the better practices are. Or you should have figured out why isn't banding working? The numbers aren't there. Why aren't we receiving the numbers? And that's constant analysis that you have to have going on. And that's what I would do is on a regular basis. I always self-critique myself, but you have to do it with all your practices, just like you do here at the paper. If you just wanted to continue on the same road, you're going to diminish through time. And what we try to do is we want to continually raise the bar, raise the level, become better each and every day within city government. And that's what I would do as mayor, is put those best practices in place with regards to reviewing the practices, the recruitment processes, as well as the hiring processes to make sure that we're reaching our goals.
What's the minority employment now in the treasurer's office?
We have one out of the, let me think here real quick. I think I've hired 1, 2, 3. I believe there's 4 people I've hired, and one of them is a minority.
Okay, so the folks you've hired, that's the ones that you've had a say in.
Right.
And so you're at 25%, but that's not a large pool.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then, that's, it's a numbers thing. And that's the thing with numbers is the other aspect that we need to take a look at, and there's one vacancy there now, in my office.
In all the years of 12 years, you've only had 4 people you've had to hire?
Well, right now that's who's there. There's been a couple that do-overs. Well, they were in a probationary period, and then it didn't work out.
Okay.
So I'm not going to, go into personnel, but there's 2 that fell into that realm, and so we just redid it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so on the other side of it, as far as minorities, other practices I've put in place is internship and do it like a management trainee, because one aspect that we have minimal minorities are at the management level. And so, and that's what we take a look at is we would put in practice internship, or when I was in banking, we did management trainee. And so we'd put in something similar to that effect.
The one area of city government which strikes me where it's been really poor has been the fire department. I'm drawing that from when they hired 20 firefighters about 4 years ago now, was it? Just about. And I believe there were only 1 or 2 of those 20 that were hired that were minorities. With that in mind, and as you point out, banding hasn't produced the results that were hoped for. Is pass-fail a good idea to consider when it comes to testing for these positions?
That could be. I haven't really delved into different testing. What they used to have is they had it based, everybody wants a qualified firefighter or police officer or any job, you want the qualified applicant. So what we need to do is give them the tools to improve their ability. And one thing I did introduce was the school partnership, which I'll go over in detail later. But to answer your question, how they used to do it is they did it based on, best score on down the road or down the line, and you would just hire the next available firefighter or interview them or police officer, and that's how it worked. Now with the banding, from my understanding, you can jump around within that band. And what's disheartening is they had someone in, I think it was band 3 or 4, and then it was a minority applicant. I believe it was with the police department, and then they weren't hired here, but they ended up going to, I think it was Normal or Bloomington, and that was just recent. It was in the paper, and they ended up hiring them. So we should, if that happened here, we should be looking into that. What we should do is track all the minority applicants, and if any of them end up going elsewhere, we should find out, well, why were they hired elsewhere? Why didn't we hire them here? So that's another aspect of review that we should always be self-critiquing our processes.